In the year 2047, something happened that changed everything. For the first time in human history, people were not alone in the universe, not in theory, not in dreams, but in real, undeniable fact. It began quietly with no explosion, no warning siren, no dramatic music. One morning, as the sun rose over the Pacific Ocean, astronomers in Chile noticed a strange object near the moon. It was too big to be a satellite, too still to be space junk, and it gave off no radio signals. Within hours, every major space agency on Earth confirmed it. A ship, massive, smooth, and shaped like a silver teardrop, was floating in geostationary orbit right above the equator. It did not move. It did not speak. It just waited. People around the world held their breath. Some prayed. Some panicked. Others filmed it on their phones and posted it online with wild guesses. But governments stayed silent, watching, waiting, trying to understand. Then, on the third day, the ship spoke. Not with sound, but with light. A soft, pulsing glow spread across its surface, and then, every screen on Earth flickered at once. Phones, televisions, computers, even digital billboards in Times Square and Tokyo all showed the same image. A star map, unfamiliar to human eyes, with two glowing regions marked in red and blue. Below it, simple words appeared in every major language, perfectly translated. The Valkyrie Concord calls all sentient life to choose. The Cathar swarm must be stopped. Stand with us or stand aside. But know this. Neutrality offers no shield if the swarm comes for you. No one knew who the Valkyrie were. No one had ever heard of the Cathar swarm. But the message was clear. A war was happening out there among the stars, and Earth had to pick a side. Panic spread fast. Stock markets crashed. Airports filled with people trying to flee cities. Religious leaders gave sermons about the end times. But within days, something unexpected happened. Calm returned. Not because the threat was gone, but because people began to talk, really talk, for the first time in decades. At the United Nations in New York, emergency sessions ran nonstop. Representatives from 193 countries argued, pleaded, and bargained. The United States wanted to join the Valkyrie immediately, fearing what might happen if they refused. China warned against rushing into a war they didn't understand. Small island nations already suffering from rising seas asked, why should we fight someone else's battle when our homes are drowning? African leaders reminded the world that Earth had spent centuries fighting its own wars. Colonialism, civil conflicts, resource wars, and had only just begun to heal. After 2 weeks of tense debate, a rare thing happened. The world agreed, not on everything, not on how to fix climate change or end poverty, but on this. Earth would not join the war. The vote was nearly unanimous. Even nations that usually opposed each other stood together. Their message to the Valkyrie was simple. We are not your enemy. We are not the swarm's ally. We choose peace. We choose to stay out of your war. The reply came within minutes. A new message appeared on every screen. Your choice is noted. The Valkyrie Concord respects neutrality, for now. But remember, the Cathar swarm does not. If they come, you will face them alone. Then the silver ship dimmed its lights and vanished. Not with a flash, but like a shadow slipping away at dawn. Radar tracked it leaving Earth's orbit, heading toward the outer solar system. Silence returned to the skies. On Earth, people exhaled. Children went back to school. Farmers returned to their fields. Factories restarted. Life went on, but not as before. Something had shifted. For the first time, humanity had acted as one species, not many nations. There was pride in that. But also fear. Scientists worked day and night studying the data the Valkyrie had left behind. Star charts, energy readings, fragments of alien language. Some governments secretly tried to copy the alien tech. Others pushed for global cooperation, saying, if we can agree on this, maybe we can agree on other things too. But not everyone was relieved. In military bunkers and intelligence offices, experts warned. The Valkyrie said the swarm doesn't respect neutrality. What if they come anyway? Others asked. What if the Valkyrie were lying? What if this is a trick to make us weak? Still, for months, nothing happened. The stars stayed quiet. The moon shone as it always had. People began to hope that maybe, just maybe, they had dodged the bullet. Then, in early 2050, new reports came in. Telescopes spotted strange activity near Mars. Huge, jagged ships, nothing like the smooth Valkyrie vessel. were attacking a Valkyrie outpost on Phobos, one of Mars's moons. The Cathar swarm had arrived in the solar system. Earth watched in horror as the battle unfolded in real time, thanks to Valkyrie data feeds shared with neutral worlds. The swarm ships moved like living things, tearing through defenses with terrifying speed. The Valkyrie fought bravely, but they were outnumbered. Within days, the outpost was gone, reduced to dust. But then something strange happened. The swarm fleet didn't chase the retreating Valkyrie deeper into space. Instead, part of it turned and headed toward Earth. Not fast, not aggressively, just drifting in their direction. Fear returned, colder this time. Was it a mistake? A coincidence? Or had Earth's neutrality made them a target? The UN called another emergency meeting. Scientists ran simulations. Military leaders prepared worst-case plans. But before any decision could be made, the swarm ship slowed near the moon and landed, not on Earth, not in cities or oceans. They touched down in the Tycho crater, a large impact site on the lunar surface. They weren't attacking. They were digging. At first, no one understood why. Then satellite images showed it. They were mining, pulling up strange glowing rocks from deep beneath the moon's crust. The Valkyrie had once mentioned that the moon held rare minerals useful in interstellar war. The swarm needed them, and Earth's moon was the closest source. Relief washed over the planet. They weren't here to fight, just to take what they needed and leave. But relief, as humanity would soon learn, was a fragile thing, because in their arrogance, the Cathar swarm had made one terrible mistake. They had chosen the wrong place to dig and the wrong enemy to ignore. For nearly 2 years after the Cathar swarm landed on the moon, Earth held its breath, but nothing terrible happened. The alien ship stayed in the Tycho crater, digging deep into the lunar rock. They ignored Earth completely. No signals, no threats, no movement toward the planet. Slowly, people began to relax. Life went on. Cities grew taller. Solar farms spread across deserts. Children were born who would never remember a time before the aliens came. The world had changed, but not in the way anyone expected. Instead of war, there was waiting. Instead of panic, there was a strange kind of peace. The Valkyrie, true to their word, left Earth alone. But they did not cut all ties. Every few months, a small Valkyrie probe would drop off data packets near Earth's orbit. These packets contained scientific knowledge, clean energy designs, medical advances, even new ways to grow food in dry soil. The UN shared this information with every country, rich or poor. For the first time, the whole world used the same technology. Hospitals in Nairobi healed patients with alien scanners. Farmers in Bangladesh grew crops using Valkyrie soil formulas. It wasn't a gift, it was a test. The Valkyrie wanted to see what humanity would do with knowledge, not weapons. And for a while, Earth passed that test. Nations that once fought over oil or borders now worked together on space observation teams. Russia and the United States shared satellite control rooms. Brazil and India built joint labs to study the alien data. Even old enemies spoke politely at UN meetings. People began to hope that maybe neutrality had been the right choice after all. Maybe Earth could stay out of the war and still grow stronger. But not everyone believed in peace. In secret bunkers and hidden bases, some governments worried. They whispered about the swarm. "They are here," they said. "On our moon. What if they decide we're in their way?" Others feared the Valkyrie were using Earth as bait, letting the swarm come close so they could trap them near human space. Still, nothing happened. The swarm kept digging. The Valkyrie kept watching from afar, and Earth kept waiting. Then in the spring of 2050, everything changed. It started with a small tremor on the moon. A Valkyrie probe, orbiting silently, recorded a strange energy pulse from the Tycho crater. At first, scientists thought it was a machine malfunction. But then Earth's own lunar satellites picked it up too. A sharp, high-frequency burst that lasted less than a second. It wasn't natural. It wasn't Cathar. And it wasn't Valkyrie. The pulse came from deep underground, far deeper than any human or alien drill had ever reached. Within hours, the Cathar ships stopped working. Their lights flickered. Their machines fell silent. Then one by one, their soldiers began to collapse. Not from attack, not from sickness as humans knew it. Their bodies simply shut down. Over 200 Cathar warriors died in less than a day. The swarm's command ship, hovering just above the crater, went dark for 12 hours. When it came back online, its behavior changed completely. No more mining. No more calm digging. The ships lifted off the surface not to leave, but to circle the moon like angry birds. Then they turned their sensors toward Earth. Not toward cities. Not toward military bases, but toward the planet itself, its oceans, its forests, its atmosphere. They were scanning, studying, planning. At the UN, alarms rang. Scientists ran new simulations. What had caused the pulse? Who or what had sent it? Deep in a research lab in Geneva, a team of archaeologists and astrophysicists made a shocking discovery. Buried in ancient rock samples brought back from the moon during the old Apollo missions, samples no one had studied in decades, was a tiny, smooth object. It looked like a black stone, but it hummed with faint energy. It matched the pulse signature exactly. The object was not natural. It was made. Placed there long before humans walked the earth. By whom? No one knew. But one thing was clear. The Cathar had disturbed it, and it had fought back. The swarm didn't understand what had happened. To them, Earth was a quiet, weak world. They had seen no armies in space, no warships, no signs of advanced defense. They thought humanity was harmless. But now something hidden on this harmless moon had killed their soldiers. To the Cathar, that made Earth dangerous. Unpredictable. A threat that could not be ignored. 3 days after the pulse, the swarm command ship sent a message. Not to Earth, but into deep space. It was a call for reinforcements. And it included a new order. Purge the anomaly. Sterilize the biosphere. Leave nothing alive. The Valkyrie intercepted the message. They knew what it meant. The Cathar didn't just want to mine the moon anymore. They wanted to wipe out all life on Earth, to remove the anomaly that had hurt them. The Valkyrie sent a warning to Earth. The swarm now sees you as a weapon. They will come for your world. Prepare. But when Earth's leaders begged the Valkyrie for help, for ships, for weapons, for protection, the reply was cold and clear. You chose neutrality. That choice stands. Defend yourselves. Panic returned, faster and deeper than before. This was not a distant war anymore. This was home. People rushed to buy food, water, fuel. Governments activated old bunkers. Parents hugged their children tighter at night. But something else happened too. In Tokyo, engineers began linking old missile systems to new Valkyrie sensors. In Cairo, students built communication networks using scavenged parts and alien code. In Buenos Aires, doctors prepared field hospitals and subway tunnels. In Oslo, a group of teenagers hacked into satellite feeds to track every Cathar movement. No one waited for orders. No one asked permission. People just started helping. Each other, their cities, their planet. Because now they understood the swarm hadn't come for Earth because it was powerful. They had come because they thought it was weak. And in doing so, they had made the worst mistake an enemy could make. They had underestimated humanity, and humanity, for the first time in its history, was ready to prove them wrong. The Cathar swarm did not attack right away. They waited. From their ships circling the moon, they watched Earth like hunters watching prey. They saw no armies in space. No giant weapons. No signs of a civilization ready for war. To them, Earth was still weak, just a blue dot with loud, frightened animals on it. But they were wrong. Deep beneath the surface of the moon, in the ruins of the Tycho crater base, the Cathar had found something they could not understand. The black stone, the artifact, had pulsed once and killed their soldiers. Now they feared it. They feared anything that could strike without warning. And so instead of mining, they decided to destroy. Their new plan was simple. Burn the planet clean. Kill every living thing. Wipe the slate so nothing like that artifact could ever rise again. They called it biosphere sterilization. To them, it was not cruelty. It was caution. Back on Earth, people did not know the full plan yet, but they saw the signs. Cathar ships began moving into position. Some flew closer to Earth's atmosphere. Others gathered near the poles where ice and wind made defense harder. Satellites picked up strange energy readings like heat building inside their ships. Scientists guessed what it meant. The swarm was preparing to drop fire from the sky. Panic grew. But this time, panic turned into action. In Geneva, the United Nations declared a Global Emergency Defense Act. For the first time, every country agreed to share all military and scientific resources. No more secrets. No more borders when it came to survival. Russia sent its best radar tech to South Africa. Canada shared its Arctic early warning stations with Brazil. Even nations with no space programs helped, building shelters, growing extra food, training volunteers. But the real hope lay with the moon. Scientists now believed the black artifact was not just a weapon, it was a key. It had reacted when the Cathar dug too deep. Maybe it could be used again, maybe it could be controlled. A team of experts from 12 countries met in a secure lab under the Swiss Alps. They studied every piece of data from the moon. They ran tests. They argued. And finally, they reached a conclusion. The artifact responded to certain sound frequencies and energy patterns. If they could send the right signal from the surface of the moon, they might wake it up fully and aim its power at the Cathar fleet. But someone had to go there. Someone had to stand on the moon near the crater and activate it. No nation had a working crewed spaceship anymore. The old programs had ended decades ago. But working together, engineers from the US, China, India, and the European Union rebuilt a lunar lander in just 6 weeks. They called it Unity 1. It was patched together from old parts, new Valkyrie tech, and pure desperation. The crew was small, just 4 people. Captain Elena Ruiz from Mexico, a pilot with nerves of steel. Dr. Kwame Mensah from Ghana, the lead scientist who understood the artifact better than anyone. Lieutenant Li Wei from China, an engineer who could fix anything with wire and tape. And Major Anya Petrova from Russia, a former astronaut who had trained for Mars missions that never happened. They trained for 10 days. Not months, not years, 10 days. Then on a cold morning in late March, Unity 1 lifted off from a launch pad in Kazakhstan. Millions watched on screens around the world. No one cheered. They just held their breath. The trip to the moon took 3 days. The Cathar saw them coming, but they did not attack. To them, a tiny human ship was no threat. They let it land near the edge of Tycho crater, not far from the dead Cathar base. The crew stepped onto the gray dust in heavy suits. The sky was black. Earth hung above them, blue and fragile. They moved fast. Dr. Mensah carried a small device, a signal generator built from Valkyrie circuits and human code. It was designed to speak the artifact's language. As they set up near the crater's rim, alarms beeped in their helmets. Cathar ships were moving, not toward them, but into high orbit. They were taking position for the final strike. Time was running out. Then, without warning, the ground shook. From deep below, the artifact pulsed again, weakly like a heartbeat. The crew felt it through their boots. Dr. Mensah smiled. "It knows we're here," he whispered. He turned on the signal generator. A low hum filled the air, or would have if there were air. The device sent out waves of energy, matching the artifact's rhythm. At first, nothing happened. Then the black stone rose from the ground, floating on its own. Light spread from it, soft at first, then blinding. Back on Earth, every telescope focused on the moon. People watched in silence. The Cathar ships turned. They saw the light. They understood. This was the thing that had killed their kind. And now it was awake. They fired. Bolts of red energy shot from their ships toward the crater, but the artifact moved faster. A shield of blue light wrapped around the crew and the lander. The Cathar blasts hit the shield and vanished. Then the artifact struck back. A beam of pure white light shot into the sky, hitting the nearest Cathar ship. The ship didn't explode. It simply unraveled. Its metal turned to dust. Its crew vanished. One by one, the other ships tried to flee, but the beam followed them, silent and fast. In less than a minute, half the Cathar fleet near the moon was gone. But the cost was high. The pulse of energy cracked the moon's surface. Rocks fell. The ground split. Unity 1 tilted dangerously. The crew ran back, dragging their gear. They barely made it inside before a landslide buried the crater. As they lifted off, the artifact sank back into the ground, its light fading. On Earth, people cried, not from sadness, but from hope. The swarm had come to destroy a weak world. Instead, they had woken something ancient, something powerful, and they had chosen the wrong enemy. The victory on the moon did not end the war. It only changed it. The Cathar swarm lost half their ships near Earth, but more were coming. Deep space sensors picked up their signal. A massive fleet, larger than any seen before, moving fast through the outer solar system. They were angry. They were scared. And now, They were determined to finish what they started. Back on Earth, there was no time to celebrate. The ground still shook from the moon's wounds. Tides acted strangely. Some coastal cities flooded for no clear reason. Scientists said the moon's orbit had shifted slightly, just enough to upset Earth's balance. Millions were moved from low-lying areas. Food supplies were stretched thin, but no one complained. Everyone knew. The real storm was still coming. The crew of Unity 1 returned as heroes, but they refused medals. "We didn't win," Captain Ruiz said in a global broadcast. "We just bought time. Now we must use it." And use it they did. Across the planet, people worked like never before. Factories that once made cars now built radar dishes and power cells. Schools became training centers for emergency crews. Old satellites were pulled from storage and upgraded with Valkyrie tech, shared quietly by the conquered. No longer as a gift, but as a sign of respect. The Valkyrie had watched Earth fight alone, and they were impressed. They still would not send ships, but they sent data. Maps of Cathar weak points, energy frequencies that hurt them, patterns in their attacks. Humanity studied it all. In Nairobi, a team of young engineers built a network of ground-based lasers using solar mirrors and recycled glass. In Seoul, programmers created an AI system that could predict Cathar movements by reading their energy trails. In Peru, villagers helped dig underground farms so cities could survive if the sky turned dark. But the biggest plan came from the scientists who studied the artifact. They believed it could do more than defend. If activated fully from the right place with the right signal, it might send a wave so strong it could disable every Cathar ship in the solar system. Not destroy them. Disable them. Give Earth a chance to talk, to hide, or to fight back on equal terms. The problem was simple. The artifact was deep under the moon's surface now, buried by the landslide. No robot could reach it. No drill could cut through the new rock layers fast enough. Only a human team on the ground with precise tools could do it, and they would have to do it while the Cathar fleet arrived. The UN approved the mission in 1 hour. No debates, no delays. They called it Operation Silent Dawn. The same 4 crew members from Unity 1 volunteered again. No one asked them to. They simply stepped forward. "We know the crater," Dr. Mensah said. "We know the artifact. It trusts us." This time they would not go alone. 3 more ships would launch with them, carrying engineers, medics, and extra power units. All built by different countries, flown by crews who spoke different languages but shared the same goal. As the new fleet prepared on launch pads from Florida to Kazakhstan, people on Earth did something strange. They stopped watching the news. Instead, they went outside. They looked up at the moon. They held hands. They lit candles. In Tokyo, Mumbai, Rio, and Cairo, strangers stood together in silence, not praying to gods, but hoping for each other. The Cathar arrived on a Tuesday. Their ships filled the sky like black clouds. They did not speak. They did not warn. They simply formed a ring around Earth and began charging their weapons. Energy built in their hulls, bright red cores glowing like angry eyes. But before they could fire, the human ships launched. 7 small vessels, flying without weapons, rose into the sky. They did not attack. They flew straight for the moon, fast and quiet. The Cathar let them pass. To them, these ships were like flies, annoying but not dangerous. On the moon, the crew landed near the edge of the broken crater. Dust still floated in the air. The ground was unstable, but they moved quickly. Dr. Mensah led the way, holding a new signal device, stronger, smarter, built from lessons learned last time. Deep below, the artifact stirred. It felt their presence. It remembered. As the engineers drilled into the fresh rock, alarms blared in their helmets. Cathar scouts had landed nearby, not to fight but to watch, to make sure nothing like last time happened again. Lieutenant Li Wei set up small drones to distract them. The drones flew in wild patterns, drawing the Cathar away from the dig site. It bought them 10 minutes, maybe 15. Then the drill broke through. The black stone lay there pulsing softly like a sleeping heart. Dr. Mensah connected the signal device. He took a deep breath. "This is not a weapon," he whispered. "It's a voice, and today, Earth will speak." He pressed the button. A wave of light shot out, not just from the artifact, but from every human-made device on the moon that carried Valkyrie tech. The wave spread fast, silent and invisible, racing through space like a ripple in water. On Earth, every screen went white for 1 second. Then, in the sky, the Cathar ships froze. Their red cores dimmed. Their engines stopped. Their weapons went dark. One by one, they drifted powerless. The wave had not killed them. It had silenced them. In that moment of stillness, something unexpected happened. From the edge of the solar system, the Valkyrie Concord arrived not to fight, but to witness. And for the first time, they saw Earth not as a neutral planet, but as a force to be reckoned with. The humans had not asked for help. They had not begged for mercy. They had stood alone, used what they had, and changed the course of a galactic war. Now the real test would begin, not of weapons, but of wisdom. The silence after the wave was the loudest sound anyone had ever heard. Across Earth, people stood still. They looked up. The Cathar ships hung in the sky like dead birds. No lights, no movement, no threat. The red glow in their cores was gone. They were not destroyed, but disabled, floating helplessly in orbit. The artifact's pulse had not killed them. It had shut them down like turning off a machine. On the moon, the crew of Unity 1 collapsed from exhaustion. Their suits were torn. Their oxygen was low, but they were alive, and they had done it. Dr. Mensa touched the black stone one last time before it sank back into the ground. "Thank you," he whispered. Back on Earth, no one cheered. Not yet, because they knew the war was not over. The Cathar would wake up. Their main fleet was still out there far beyond Neptune. And the Valkyrie, though impressed, had not promised peace. They had only watched, but something had changed. Not just in space, but on the ground. In the days that followed, the world did not return to how it was before. Old habits did not come back. Borders still existed on maps, but not in people's hearts. When food ran low in one country, another sent trucks without being asked. When a city lost power, engineers from 3 continents worked together online to fix it. Children in schools learned not just math and history, but how to grow food, purify water, and send signals into space. They were being raised not as citizens of one nation, but as citizens of Earth. The Valkyrie sent a message. Not a demand this time, an offer. "Join the conquered," it said. "Fight with us. We will protect you." The United Nations met one last time. Every nation was present. Some leaders wanted to say yes. Safety was tempting, but others remembered the cost of blind trust. They remembered how close they had come to extinction, not because of aliens, but because they had been divided. In the end, Earth gave a new answer. "We will not join your war," the UN declared, "but we will not stand alone either. We invite all neutral worlds, any planet that wants peace without surrender, to form a new group, the Galactic Non-Alignment Pact. We will share knowledge. We will defend each other, but we will not become soldiers in someone else's fight." The Valkyrie were silent for a long time. Then they replied, "You surprise us. Perhaps wisdom is stronger than weapons." The disabled Cathar ships were towed away by Valkyrie tugs, not as prisoners but as warnings. The swarm would learn that Earth was not weak, and they would think twice before coming back. Life on Earth was not easy after that. The moon's damage caused strange weather for years. Some crops failed. Some cities had to be rebuilt. But people helped each other. No one was left behind. Years passed. Children who had been babies during the crisis grew up. They played under the same stars their parents had feared. They learned the story of the artifact, the crew of Unity 1, and the day Earth chose unity over fear. One evening, in a small village in Kenya, a group of children sat on a hill, looking up at the sky. The moon was full and bright. One boy pointed and said, "That's where they saved us." His sister shook her head. "No," she said. "They didn't save us. We saved ourselves together." And she was right. Earth had never wanted war. It had refused to join one. But when the aliens chose the wrong enemy, when they thought humanity was weak, divided, and easy to erase, they made the biggest mistake in the history of the galaxy, because Earth was not just one country, one race, or one idea. It was millions of people who, when faced with the end, chose to stand as one. The stars still held dangers. The universe was still vast and unknown. But Earth was no longer just a blue dot in the dark. It was a voice, a choice, a promise. And from that day on, whenever new ships appeared in the sky, whether friend or stranger, Earth did not hide. It watched, it listened, and it stood ready not with weapons first, but with wisdom. For the first time, humanity was not afraid of the future. It was building it together.